St. U's Peekaboo.
According to the middle schoolers, this was the final album by a famous girl idol group that made a grand comeback a few years ago after a long hiatus. The song was upbeat, addictive, and cheerful, lingering on the music charts for a long time. Now that very song echoed through the dark, fog-filled forest, accompanied by clapping hands in rhythm.
My sharp gaze catches you in an instant, but I don't plan to make the first move. I'll wait patiently, pretending I'm not interested until you approach. 'Cause predators never move first.
Even the adults clumsily joined in, trying their best to sing along.
All right, get ready. I'm the elegant tiger waiting for you to come closer. Peekaboo!
The lively, energetic melody continued. Maybe because everyone was singing together, the kids' expressions began to relax, and their voices grew stronger.
Peekaboo! Here I come, so get ready. I'm the tiger. My eyes sparkle even in the dark.
Walk along the path while offering the song, with the sacrifice at the back of the line.
But at the end of the line, instead of a person, a tiny purple wild ginseng dangled like a little bundle, swinging as it hung from a stick. The security sergeant held the stick over his shoulder as if it were a garbage bag, with the ginseng swaying at the back. Go Seonha kept glancing at it suspiciously from the side, but the ginseng itself seemed to be enjoying the song, humming along cheerfully.
Peekaboo! I'll entrance you, make you lose your mind. Peekaboo, so get ready.
I signaled for everyone to stop. The 30th step. The group paused, then awkwardly bowed deeply before standing back up. The narrow path gradually leveled out, making it easier to walk.
When the song ends, so does the path. When you find a small snake hole in a place with no grass, express gratitude for Sangun Nim's mercy and reach inside. Make sure your hand is covered in the well water mixed with salt.
By the time we reached the final chorus of the second verse, the surroundings began to change. The trees that had been packed so densely were thinning, and the fog grew even thicker. Everyone sensed it instinctively. We're almost there. The expressions on their faces were a mix of tension, anticipation, and caution. But they remained calm, singing the song to the very end.
Peekaboo, so get ready.
And with that final line,
Now I'm coming closer.
our footsteps halted. Ahead, the narrow trail opened into a wide clearing.
There are no trees.
Our steps quickened, and through the thick fog, the final result of the ritual appeared before us.
Now, the snake hole should be.
It was a massive reservoir. An expanse of dark water stretched before us, the fog endlessly rolling over its surface. The group halted, faces filled with confusion and terror, as if they couldn't comprehend what had just happened.
There was supposed to be a snake hole, but what is this?
I looked at the ginseng the security sergeant was carrying. It was still there, perfectly intact. It should have disappeared, right? Go Seonya, her face pale with fear, murmured. The words I'd heard a few hours ago rushed back to mind. The Changui are ghosts cursed by tigers and bound to serve them, but historically the term also referred to water ghosts.
It was a trap. The ritual itself was a trap. We were lured by the water spirit. We were all led here, right to the reservoir.
Section Chief Lee screamed, stumbling backward as he tried to run, only to trip. The children began to whimper, clutching onto each other and screaming in panic. I felt a chill down my spine, nearly falling to my knees. It was like being in the final scene of a horror movie, where every character faces impending doom. Are we really going to die here? At the very least, I needed to understand why. I couldn't think of any mistake we'd made within the information we'd been given. Even considering every exploration log I'd read from the Something Unknown, nothing indicated we'd gone wrong. A sense of frustrated disbelief overtook my fear. Go Seonha's panicked voice echoed in my ears.
Turn around. Let's run back. Back to the abandoned house.
I turned to Go Seonha.
Do you know something?
The abandoned house is a trap, too. Think about it. Isn't it strange?
Slowly, I pointed out the intended contradiction of this ghost story.
It's strange, don't you think? We're lured into this place by the Changui, yet we're supposed to feel safe in an abandoned house with protective talismans that supposedly keep the Changui out. And that same house just happens to contain a ritual for escaping? Conveniently spelled out for us?
This was exactly why interpretations of this abandoned house were split in the wiki's comments section. But I was almost certain now. This story was designed from the start to slowly drain people's sanity. The intended reasoning went,
They lock people up in this abandoned house during the full moon, pushing them to their limits and weakening their spirits.
it dangles the hope of a ritual in front of them, leading people to endure a state of mental breakdown while clinging to that hope.
That makes it easier to lure people in.
And the most decisive part,
If they make a mistake during the ritual, all the better. But even if they don't, it doesn't matter.
I looked at the wild ginseng.
The process of choosing a sacrifice is bound to create conflict, leading to at least one dropout. They're guaranteed to claim a sacrifice. Of course, the ritual is real. That way, people are more desperate to cling to it.
After all, this is the something unknown. You can't just throw in too many convenient plot devices. It breaks immersion and ruins the suspense. The ritual itself has to be genuine. That's why I had full confidence in performing it, but
That only raises more questions.
I've read a lot of ghost stories. In fact, I've read every single ghost story uploaded to the. Some were hard to get through, but reading them became part of my daily routine at work, so I've read them multiple times. In the process, I picked up a few bits of obscure knowledge. Peach branches are commonly known to ward off spirits, and plums are a favorite fruit of the Changui. That's probably why both of these materials were required. But then, isn't it odd that someone here seemed uncomfortable with the peach incense and overly drawn to the plum? Among 7 people, only one kept staying close to the security sergeant at the back of the group, as if wanting to keep as far away from the peach incense as possible. I looked directly at her.
Are you sure you're speaking of your own will?
What are you implying?
The real Go Sionya may have failed the ritual in the shrine long before she ever met us.
Isn't it actually the Changui that's speaking to us through you right now? Go Sion Hasi.
You figured it out.
Go Sionya's mouth stretched into a grotesque grin. But it's too late. Too late. Her arms began to elongate, reaching out toward me with a strange fluidity, trying to grab and pull me closer. I rolled to the ground, dodging her outstretched arms. Behind me, the screams of Section Chief Lee and the children echoed in terror. Instinctively, I pulled a knife from my front pocket. This isn't a full Changui. It's a person possessed by one, which means I might be able to subdue her. But I realized something. I can't get close enough to use it. With a short-range weapon, I'd have to get right up to a possessed person's face. I already feel like I'm about to faint, but my brain, running on adrenaline, instantly found the right person for the job. I tossed the weapon toward the figure standing behind me. The blood-sucking knife cut through the air. The security sergeant caught the knife and, after a brief glance, immediately lunged at the Changui-possessed person. Gosionha's face and arms twisted into a bizarre, hideous form, sprouting the distorted features of countless men, women, and children. Arms, faces, strands of hair, and eyes pointing in all directions.
Please help me!
Get back and close your eyes.
Section Chief Lee scrambled backward with the children, huddling on the mountain path.
Can you hear me? Somebody, help me!
At that moment, the security sergeant's appearance started to distort, too. His once slender upper body swelled to an enormous size, his mouth extending into a snout with a tongue that lashed out, brutally snapping the Changui's long arms. No, it was an illusion. The security sergeant looked just like a regular human. But then again, he seemed like some monstrous creature. Wow, this is insane. I managed to shift my focus. The reason the security team was so adept at handling the darkness, and the reason they weren't part of the field investigation team. It was becoming clear right in front of me.
One of the 3 teams under the security division of Daydream Inc., a major department featured in the. This team is comprised of employees who have been so heavily tainted by certain anomalies that they are no longer classified as human. Employment is for life, and resignation is impossible.
If you're no longer classified as human, even if you clear a ghost story, the Dream Essence Collector won't be filled. There's no investigative value in it. That's why people who have practically merged with ghost stories, becoming almost monstrous themselves, were assigned to the security team. Especially those affected by particularly violent or territorial ghost stories. They're assigned to the security team to handle significant issues with company-managed darkness. And if he's the sergeant of that team, he's no different. In short, he's an employee specialized in confronting the monsters within these ghost stories. The Changui's many arms were torn apart by the sergeant's jaws, claws, and teeth, stretching from his maw like a monstrous serpentine tongue. Drooling saliva and blood dripped from the mouth that had transformed into a wolf-like snout lined with countless fangs. The illusion flickered in and out of my vision. For a brief moment, I saw the illusion of countless teeth in his elongated jaw, dripping with saliva and blood, before it vanished. A wave of dizziness and nausea washed over me, and I quickly averted my gaze to the ground. This feels like a nightmare. I began to understand why the security team always evacuated people when they subdued ghost stories in the... Despite the risks, things were progressing smoothly.
Keep your eyes closed.
Then, in the next moment,
Oh, Mr. Roe dear, it seems that peculiar guest you brought won.
when I looked up, the Changui lay on the ground, the blood-sucking knife embedded in its right hand. Standing over it was the distorted, monstrous form of the security sergeant, gripping its head tightly.
Good riddance, a brute right to the core. If this had been my show, I'd never let it on as a guest.
I'd never been so grateful that only I could hear Braun's voice. I mustered a calm voice and addressed the sergeant, who was still gripping Go Sionha's head.
Thank you, Sergeant.
He says he's tired. How rude!
You're scarier for translating that monstrous growl. But then, at that moment, a faint, muffled sound came from under the sergeant's hand. Somehow, Go Sionha's face had returned to normal, her expression one of pure terror as she moaned weakly.
Please help me. Save.
Leave this child here. Her eyes rolled back and the Changui's voice took over again.
Only you need to die. Right? You deserve to die. You killed people. You tried to kill the children. I know everything. You deserve to die. Just leave her behind. Leave her, yes? Please, save me. Save me.
Did you formally request emergency rescue from?
I couldn't see his face beneath the monstrous form, but his voice clearly posed the question directly to Go Sionha.
This is an official request requiring a signed contract, isn't that right?
Something about it felt off. Go Sionha, dazed, looked up, then seemed to snap back, responding in a desperate tone.
This darkness isn't under Daydream Inc.'s jurisdiction. We didn't enter to rescue civilians. And more than that, there was mutual assistance on both sides.
Wasn't she trying to prevent us from escaping?
That doesn't matter, sir. In the end, she helped us.
Which makes this cooperation.
The sergeant stared at me, then looked down at Go Sionha.
Maybe that's correct.
His voice relaxed, falling back to its usual tone of casual indifference. I'd intervened because something felt off, and it seemed I'd made the right call. It's best not to get entangled with Daydream Inc., especially to end up indebted to them. Just the thought gave me a terrible feeling.
So what should we do now?
I approached Section Chief Lee Byong-jin, who was standing back with his eyes closed, holding on to the kids. He flinched at the sound of my footsteps.
Are you here to take me instead?
The incense burner.
I took the incense burner from him. Although the peach incense had already burned away, the ashes remained intact inside. The Changui didn't like the peach branches. I poured the ashes over Go Sionha's shoulder. Though the ashes weren't especially hot, the smell of burning and salt filled the air as smoke rose from her shoulder.
I won't go. I won't. I'll cling on again. I'll cling on.
I poured the remaining ashes over her head. Her body, possessed by the Changui, convulsed wildly, and then her eyes flew open, filled with clarity and relief.
I'm okay now. I think I'm fine.
This is a place we were lured into by the Changui, so there's a chance it could come back for you anytime. Let's make sure it can't possess you again, just in case.
I had brought an extra pack of the apple juice with me. I handed the sealed pack to Go Sionha.
Drink it all at once.
I insisted. And although she looked confused, she reluctantly took it and began gulping down the juice while lying subdued on the ground. She slumped over, falling into a deep sleep like the ginseng. At least that's taken care of.
You can let go now.
The security sergeant released his grip and, with a faintly amused voice, asked,
Thinking of switching departments?
after thanking the security sergeant once again, who had thankfully returned to a more human appearance, I went over to check on Section Chief Lee and the kids, who were still tightly shutting their eyes.
You can open your eyes now. It's safe.
Relief washed over Section Chief Lee's face, but he quickly shot a worried glance at the kids and whispered to me with a desperate expression.
But now what? How are we supposed to find the way out?
Dawn is almost here.
I looked up at the sky. Through the hazy fog, it seemed like a faint light was beginning to filter through. The full moon was nearly setting. There's no time to redo the ritual.
I believe we succeeded in at least half of the ritual.
I remembered how the path changed with each step as we sang, and how the incense burned properly. Everything we prepared was correct. The ritual, strictly speaking, had two purposes: to avoid the Changui, and to seek an escape route by appealing to Sangun-nim.
It seems we fulfilled the second purpose.
While the first purpose failed due to the Changui's possession of one of our group members, bringing us close to the water's edge.
Maybe there's an exit somewhere nearby.
We clustered together and began searching in the dense fog, moving away from the water's edge toward the open clearing closer to the mountain. We searched around where the ritual path had ended. If you find a small snake hole in a place with no grass, express gratitude for Sangun-nim's mercy and reach inside. Make sure your hand is coated in well water mixed with salt. A place with no grass, a place with no grass. And then, a few moments later, one of the middle schoolers spotted a small hole under a tree. A shaft of moonlight pierced through the fog, shining directly onto the dark hole, as black as ink. I quickly had everyone dip their hands in the salt water, not caring about the fear or hesitation that gripped us. Just before dawn, we each reached our hands into the snake hole. The first thing I felt was dampness. As I reached into the snake hole with my saltwater-soaked hand, a peculiar coldness, like submerging my hand in ink, washed over me. Then I was pulled in. The suction that began at my hand soon engulfed my entire body. It felt like wet paper was wrapping tightly around my whole body, suffocating me. My vision spun, dark and dizzy, until finally, instead of stars, the neon lights of a provincial city stretched out before me, twinkling against the autumn night of Korea. I was back in reality. I tried to stand, but my legs were shaking so badly that I almost fell. Dark red ink was dripping from my feet, trailing onto the ground. Following the ink trail with my gaze, I saw an old piece of hanji paper with a faded ink wash painting smeared and blurred, lying on the ground. It was as if, after countless years, the image had faded entirely, and new ink had been splashed over it, leaving barely any recognizable shape. That must have been one of those cursed paintings connecting to that insane mountain. Shuddering, I quickly tore my gaze away and turned to check on the others scattered on the ground. 1, 2, 3, 7. Everyone was here. It seemed the painting had spit them out right after me.
Oh, we're outside.
Section Chief Lee Byung-jin looked around, then yelled out in shock.
Haha, we made it. We're alive.
Then, filled with relief and gratitude, he turned to me and bowed deeply.
Thank you for saving us.
You saved yourself, Section Chief. You were the one who carried out the ritual, after all.
Haha, so modest. I'm ashamed.
Section Chief Lee bowed again, looking rather moved. I figured it was best to let him believe it was humility rather than flattery. The next ones to come to their senses were the middle schoolers. As I helped them get their bearings, I listened to their surprised chatter.
This place. It's where you were supposed to stay on your school trip?
Now that I looked around, it did resemble the description they'd given of the gazebo behind our lodging. So we all got spit out here. It was lucky we didn't wake up in that strange office in the basement of the company. I reassured the kids who were hugging each other in relief, crying and ready to run straight down the mountain.
Be careful where you step. When you get down, find an adult and call your parents, all right?
But the kids looked nervous, hesitant to leave.
Aren't you coming with us?
Well, they had a point. Whether I was treated as a hero for rescuing them or mistaken for a kidnapper. If I went to the police, the company probably wouldn't be thrilled. As long as the kids get back safely, that's what matters. I slowly shook my head.
We need to go somewhere else. You just keep going straight down and don't look back.
Just in case you trip. The kids seemed to muster some resolve, nodding with determined faces, and carefully started down the mountain, relying on each other, for since it was a well-maintained path on a shallow mountain, it would only take them about 5 minutes to get down. As I watched them go, ensuring they were safe, I felt a tap on my shoulder. It was the security sergeant, who had already gotten to his feet and was slightly swaying as he held out the stick with the greenish wild ginseng still attached.
Hey kid, take this.
The sergeant held out the stick with the unconscious wild ginseng dangling from it. I mean, we could have just left it there. Still, I took the ginseng without protest. The sergeant turned and started walking away, trudging off with heavy step.
Where are you headed?
The office still on duty?
But we're in Gyeongju right now. By the time he gets back, his shift would probably be over anyway. In any case, I followed him since I also needed to get back to Seoul, carrying Go Seonya, the exhausted university student, slung over my shoulder. I'll drop her off in front of the police station on the way. Then, at that moment...
Ah, both security team officers need to return quickly. I'll follow along then. Haha, isn't it only right for me to accompany you as the missing person you found? Let's go together.
I glanced at Section Chief Lee Byongjin, who was scrambling to catch up, looking every bit like a sycophant afraid to lose his backup. Well, now that we'd escaped, maybe it was time for him to know the truth.
And after everything's settled, I'll stop by your department to properly thank you too. Haha, where exactly does the security team work?
Even if you come to the security team, you won't be able to meet me. I'm with the field exploration team.
A heavy silence followed.
But your clothes, you're in a security team uniform.
It was just lent to me.
With that comment from the security sergeant, Section Chief Lee's face became a mix of confusion, and then, after a moment, he seemed to piece things together in his mind.
I see. But you don't seem familiar. Don't you get administrative?
What happened afterward was handled fairly quickly. All the way from Gyeongju back to the company, Section Chief Lee kept muttering lies under his breath. However, when he reached the office and verified my personnel records, he was left in stunned silence. But surprisingly, he didn't immediately change his demeanor. I thought he'd immediately dismiss me as a newbie in the lowly field exploration team, but instead, he continued to behave respectfully, although he did make some effort to act more casually, dropping a bit of the formality.
Soleum C, did you hear? The kids and the university student, they got home safely.
A few days later, he informed me that the survivors from our escape had been registered as civilian survivors at...
They probably received a decent amount as compensation for their information, too.
And ironically, it was good fortune for me as well.
So anyway, Soleum C, from now on, you can just count on me.
Section Chief Lee quickly pushed through my manual evaluation process. Only for me, though. Is it really okay for him to act after taking an unauthorized week off? Well, it was a good outcome for me. The scroll that served as a portal for the Sangun-nim ghost story was swiftly collected by as a darkness under its jurisdiction, and my unique method of escape was officially accepted as a new procedure in the manual. Even my previously pending application under A-Squad for a manual revision was quickly approved. The balance in my bank account now read,
Manual revision bonus. Sen.
It was a staggering amount, enough to make my hands tremble. Now that 2 manual revisions had been approved, this unexpected sum appeared in my banking app. Even though it was a cash payment rather than the standard points allocation, this amount was certainly enough to make anyone do a double take. Maybe I should take advantage of this friendly manual evaluator and tackle as many new darknesses as possible. But venturing out alone to encounter various ghosts and monsters was a daunting thought, so for now, I should put this 100 million to good use. Where would be the best place to spend it? I already knew where a portion of it was going. About 30% had been allocated to the source of this whole ordeal.
Congratulations, Braun.
Blood bathtub. 29,999.
Fortunately, the blood bathtub was still available in the alien shop, so I could fulfill the promise I made to my animated plush friend. I wonder if it'll come by rocket delivery this time too? I recalled the postal service box that had mysteriously materialized in midair last time. As far as I knew, the blood bathtub was a large 4-legged tub, about the size of a typical household bathtub, with decorative gold legs that gave it an elegant look. But imagining it landing in my small studio unit, maybe I should order it from the bathroom? In any case, I decided to push my bed and desk aside to clear space, then pressed the order button right here. There just wasn't enough room in the bathroom.
All right, time to place the order.
Exciting! My heart is pounding with anticipation!
In the dimly lit room, with only a flashlight as illumination, I finally clicked the order button, carrying on a conversations with a small little plushie that, of course, had no heart to pound with excitement. Just like the previous times, the space seemed to tear open, and my anticipation grew. But the tear was smaller than expected. With a soft plop, a package fell out. I opened the postal box, which was barely a quarter of the size I expected, and found the product packaging inside.
Bathtub of Youth Foot Massage Edition.
So that's why it was so cheap. Come to think of it, since it was a ghost story item from a home shopping creepypasta, it probably had a variety of editions and versions. Although, as far as I knew, most versions were just fun variations with little functional difference, except for a few rare ones. I never thought they'd make a footbath version, though. It came with a gold-embossed sticker and a warranty certificate, hinting that it was some sort of special edition.
10-year free ASH warranty.
Who's going to request customer service on something like this? But I decided to open it anyway. There were no records in the bureau of anyone touching a blood bathtub and having their blood involuntarily drained after all. Inside, packed in a box as elegantly wrapped as a luxury item, lay the object itself. The bathtub of youth, also known as the blood bathtub. It was a glossy black and white checkered tub that appeared to be made of shimmering ceramic. Its elegant curves were quite impressive, if you ignore the fact that it was a footbath. Someone with just the right size to fit in it, however, was evidently thrilled.
Mr. Road Deer, please put me in there with some bath salt!
Wait, if it's a bloodbath, then...
You mean you want my blood as the bath salt?
Precisely! How perceptive of you, Mr. Road Deer!
For a brief moment, I wavered between reasoning with him or bolting out the door.
Haha, I'm joking, friend! With no audience or cameras here, I'd never make such a demanding request of a friend!
But what about if there was an audience and cameras? I kept that thought to myself. Desperate people have to bite their tongue sometimes. Still, I couldn't resist saying one thing.
Please, no more jokes like that. They're not funny. They're terrifying.
My! I understand! Humor is a cultural delicacy, and it's always important to handle it carefully!
This is what carefully handled looks like.
Anyway, back to the main point. There's already a perfectly suitable alternative for bath salts in this space, isn't there? Let's see if our Mr. Road Deer can figure out what it is!
Something in my place? I glanced around. He couldn't possibly mean Baek Deok-soo, the guy in the next room. No, let's not even consider that. I tried to think of other options. Then my eyes landed on something that had been sitting on the corner of my desk for the past few days. Reluctantly, I pointed at it.
This wild ginseng?
Yes. It was the corrupted purple wild ginseng I had unknowingly taken from the Sangunnim ghost story. I guess you could call it sap. Or maybe something more like blood did seem to flow through it. But for days now, it had just looked like a regular wild ginseng with an odd purple hue. My plan was to feed it more apple juice if it ever woke up, and if that didn't work, just discard it. But surprisingly, it hadn't stirred at all. All that tension waiting for it to wake up at sunrise that day was pretty pointless. Braun had even commented,
I doubt it will ever wake up again! After all, weaker creatures tend to play dead when they sense danger, do they not?
maybe getting pulled into the real world from the Changui's Sangun-nim's burial grounds had traumatized it.
Anyways, friend, if it concerns you, I'll keep an eye on it!
And so far, there hadn't been a single problem. So, was he suggesting I use this ginseng? That could work. Without any supernatural possession, it was just a juicy piece of ginseng. Besides, I was genuinely curious to see the blood bathtub in action. It's kind of fascinating, isn't it? I had some curiosity of my own, which is probably why I sometimes snuck peeks at the creepypasta wiki during work breaks. There aren't many creepypastas I can safely observe, even if just in images. Using ginseng juice instead of blood could be a unique opportunity. I grabbed a pair of rubber gloves and scissors from the kitchen. The plush monster beneath my bed spoke in a low, excited voice.
Now place me in the bath, please!
There was something I needed to clarify.
This bath is for rejuvenation. Do you really need to be rejuvenated? I mean, You look young enough.
I wanted to point out the absurdity of a plushie needing such a concept, but held back. Braun, however, let out a hearty laugh, crisp as if it were a pre-recorded sound effect.
Ha 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 ha! You're seeing the concept of rejuvenation too narrowly, my friend! Don't worry, you've got a fine conversationalist here to explain! In fact, rejuvenation means the return of spring in Hanja. In other words, it means to regain the prowess of one's prime. For some reason, I'm feeling rather heavy and unbalanced these days, so this bath is exactly what I need!
But you're a stuffed toy. And the tub's description clearly said it was good for healing wounds, recovering energy, treating arthritis, and enhancing skin health. If he insists this much, in the creepypastas I've read, there wasn't really a case where a plush doll with a friendly spirit would turn on you after being treated well. The disasters always happened when they were mistreated. I decided to stop overthinking it. It was unnecessarily scary. With rubber gloves on, I held scissors in one hand and the wild ginseng in the other. And with that, I reached for the blood bath tub.